The Chicago Cubs still had a lot of money left to spend. Are they NL Central favorites? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to join us every day and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. All right, we are going to do a little bit of Cubs in history, new Tuesday segment, some throwbacks, some trivia.
I got one for you, too.
The Cubs are 14th in payroll right now. I'm going to discuss that. And we're going to start with the Cubs right now as the NL Central favorite, which they currently are. We're going to explore odds from FanDuel, Fangraphs, Pacoda, with all three outlets liking the Cubs. Pacoda really likes the Cubs at 91 wins. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. 78% chance to win the division, according to them. FanDuel is next at 87.5, minus 105 to win the division. And then Fangraphs has the Cubs at 84 wins with the slimmest margin to the next team. Sam will break down, at least briefly, those other teams. But the Cubs are viewed favorably right now.
Matt, I'm going to pivot a little bit here. I'm going to pivot a little bit on this discussion and understand that the Cubs are, by letter of the law, the odds makers, FanDuel, the projections, Pacoda, the projections, Fangraphs, the favorites. And we've labeled them as that because factually they are, right? They factually are. But this show is about our perspective. And I want to give you my opinion and my answer to the question of, are the Cubs NL Central favorites? To me only, the answer is no.
Wow.
And the answer is no because of not the Cubs, because it's common sense to respect what the Milwaukee Brewers have done. I have in front of me here the Milwaukee Brewers win totals since 2018, sans the COVID year, okay? 2018, 96 wins. 2019, 89 wins. 2021, 95 wins. 2022, 86 wins. 2023, 92 wins. 2024, 93 wins. Over that time, they've averaged 92 wins. So just because they might not be great on paper, we have no evidence to believe that they are not going to overachieve again. And so until I get to Memorial Day, until I get to a checkpoint in the season where I say, you know what, Milwaukee's 4 under and it really doesn't look like it's clicking this year, I can't sit here, look you in the eye, look the camera right in the lens and confidently say that the Cubs should be favored over a team that wins 90 games every year.
Well, they shouldn't. They shouldn't be. They've earned our respect. And that's even despite more losses this offseason, namely Willy Adames, Devin Williams, others. And if we want to group the other teams right now, because I think that makes sense after what you just said. So not only the Brewers, which, that the biggest difference between one of the biggest differences in the whole league from Pacoda to Fangraphs projections is the Cubs. Actually, I think it might be the biggest in the sport. And that's where that projection gets interesting, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I'm also looking, Sam, at the Reds.
Yeah.
A strong young hitting group. Still some questions in the rotation, especially questions in their pen. Pirates really with the opposite situation. Strong young pitching, but they didn't make any additions offensively. Cardinals still have Arenado along with some of their pesky dudes, but their president said they're trying to build for 2027 and beyond, which, by the way, is that's bad for the sport. Maybe that's a different episode.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's the next segment thing. But that's bad. That's bad for the sport. I think the division lines up to be competitive. We have to remind ourselves it wasn't last year.
No.
Well, the division was competitive. Incorrect. The
No.
Brewers were the first team to clinch in the whole sport. So maybe there was glimpses of competitiveness, but that there was a runaway. That's a fact. I'm encouraged that the FanDuel odds have gone up. I would like to get some insight to maybe why that is.
Well, me.
From you, but
I bet it.
The Cubs for me, and I know you're going to talk about this for Thursday, Kyle Tucker. I've heard of him. That's the deal that we've been begging them to make for, I think, since really July 5th, 2022, when we took over this program.
Yep.
But I could make a case that Jed Hoyer, through development, trade, free agency, he's assembled the bottom 24, 23 roster spots of a good team, a division-winning team, maybe even a championship team. But these teams, especially the last 2 years, namely last year, is missing the 25th and 26th spots, which is top end talent. Are there 10 wins across just 2 spots that would make a difference? Which is why the Cubs became the clear central favorite upon his arrival. Though you're saying perhaps not.
No, but you're fine. Yeah.
But I like the roster on paper. It's just there's no top end dudes on it, which is why Tucker gets us so excited. He immediately becomes their best guy they've had in a long time. But again, with that being said, there's still that 26 spot, which in my mind would be a starting rotation addition. But a lot of depth, good mixes here. But you do wonder the 25th and 26th spots, does that hurt them? Because the Pirates have top-end talent, right, despite some flaws. The Reds have top-end talent with Skeens and De La Cruz, respectively. Brewers had arguably the best catcher in baseball, in Contreras. So this is evident in some of these other clubs, despite their other flaws.
Yeah, I think Tucker answers the top end talent question, which is why the books have moved the Cubs there. But there is one part that the Cubs have not solved yet, that the Brewers have solved for the last 6 years, and it's not answered on paper. It's not answered through FanGraphs. It's not answered through any sort of projecting.
Can I
site.
guess the name of it?
Well, it's not a name. It's just they know how to win baseball games. They know how to win. They know how to navigate a schedule throughout 162 games. They know how to steal a game when they probably shouldn't. They know how to beat teams they're supposed to do. They consistently, Jed, this is for you, outperform their projections. They consistently find ways to win where we compare the Cubs lineup to their lineup and go, the Cubs have more talent. But there is a skill of knowing how to win and developing players and developing relievers. I mean, you said they lost Steven Williams, where they were really good without him until he came back last year anyway. They just slide guys in. And the Cubs, I mean, the best way to describe it is when these two teams meet, right, over the last 6 years, whether it's at Wrigley or it's at American Family Field, if it's tied late or it's a one-run game late, you expect the Cubs to lose. And that's not because of talent. That's not because of anything that's solved on paper. The Brewers, and there's plenty of examples, the Brewers know how to win. They know how to win close games. They know how to win. They know how to steal games. So, and that's why the Cubs went and got counsel, and it just didn't make a difference last year. So this year, yes, Getting Kyle Tucker is the answer to a huge question that we've had. A guy that could carry 5+, 6+ WAR and be a star player. And I believe that's why the Cubs are the favorites according to the projections. But I want to see this team figure out a way to win. When's the last time the Cubs have gone up there and won 3 out of 4? Or, when's the last time they had a winning record against the Brewers? Like, I want to see it play out on the diamond before I myself call them favorites to win the division.
Well, it's a great question. Let's definitely look into that before they roll out the baseball on Tuesday, March 18th, which is 4 weeks from today. Pretty incredible. I thought it was notable too last week, Sam, about Craig Counsell in his first spring training presser. He name dropped all the prospects: Triantos, Alcantara, Casey Ballesteros, as, okay, yeah, you should expect these guys to debut this year. And he apparently thinks they're have the ability to contribute at least a little bit. And is part of the reason why I think the computers like the Cubs, the betting markets like the Cubs as well. But it is risky when you consider depth or depth-ish prospects who have yet to find their footing in the major leagues. You have to, really wait and see with what happens there. But yeah, this difference in projection, especially the PECOTA to Fangraphs, is striking. Cubs +10 over the Brewers with PECOTA. Wow, they really like the Cubs. 91 wins. Fangraphs only +3, 84 to 81. And the Reds not viewed favorably by PECOTA at all, only 75 wins, 78 on Fangraphs. I think the Reds on paper could pose the biggest challenge of the Cubs, but why would I put them over the Brewers? Doesn't make sense, at least not right now. All right, well, we know where the Cubs rank in luxury tax payroll. As of this recording, it's 14th. What? We get to that coming up next.
This episode is brought to you by Select Quote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. Select Quote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What a year for the Bears that was. What sets Select Quote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fit-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you'd think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon. Go to selectquote.com/lockedon today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedon. Select Quote. They shop, you save.
As of this recording, the Cubs luxury tax payroll ranks 14th in baseball, according to Roster Resource on Fangraphs. Their threshold this year is $241 million. Cubs are at 209.3, but I think for the purpose of discussion, you could round up to at least 210. Fangraphs is usually a little bit lower than the real number, and they proved that last year. They had the Cubs about 2 M's less than the threshold, and the team actually went over by 3 M's. But along with some other resources out there, Fangraphs has been the closest of all the public options. So, Sam, I could give you a breakdown of these 14, but this current ranking is mid at best. It's low.
No,
it's low.
No, mid's putting it way too kindly.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back on what I said last week because I want to talk baseball, but it's like this is part of the problem because what I don't understand is, Jed made it clear that Alex Bregman was kind of a specialty case for them to go over. But what I don't understand, and I'm open to you or anyone else answering the question for me, is once you trade for a player like Kyle Tucker, who has 1 year left on his contract, doesn't that force everybody to crank it up a notch because you're probably not going to have this opportunity? So if there are resources to spend, if there are resources to go over budget, isn't the year to do it when you have, as Boog would say, an aircraft carrier like Kyle Tucker?
Oh gosh.
That is so, rare to have, that if you said, as you said, we haven't had in quite a long time. So because I look at this roster and it feels like it's missing a couple pieces that would be within the budget of Bregman's contract. I mean, I personally, I really have questions about this starting staff. I really, really do. I have no questions. I have no questions about Justin Steele. Zero. I do have some questions about Imanaga. I mean, his ERA last year is so much actually worse than how unbelievable he pitched. Like, you're like, oh, 2.91. He was better than that. For 90% of the starts, he was unbelievably good. He was fantastic. Yeah. It's so hard to replicate that. The only reason his ERA was up towards 2.91 is his 2-3 bad starts. He just gave up, tons and tons of runs. And I'm in the camp where it's like, hey, if you're going to give up 7 over 2, what's the difference between giving up 10? I mean, you're going to lose that game regardless anyway. So he was actually better than his statistics showed. And I just don't know if that's repeatable or not in year 2. You guys, everyone knows how I feel about Tyone. I think he's fine, but I don't think he's as good as he was last year. I don't think he was bad as he's bad as he was in 23. And then that leaves you with Boyd, who I like, but has health concerns. And then everybody else is a question. And you look up and you're like, well, if you had $28 million to give to Bregman, why not just could you have just given 20 or something to the Buehlers, Flaherty's,
to a starter? Yeah,
whoever it was in the world. And by the way, Jed admitted it by almost getting Luzardo.
Yes,
they know they needed him and they tried to get him.
Yeah, we don't know the deets on that, but Jeff Passan has even said that was the deal he thought was going to happen that didn't to this offseason.
We know for a fact they had interest.
Yeah, no, and Bruce Levine said they were working hard, phrases like that. So, they almost got him. But even beyond him, you just rattled off names that I think even provide more certainty than a Luzardo, mostly because of health, but also because of performance. And a starting pitcher if you have to compare it on the positional side, right? Especially acquiring Kyle Tucker, a starting pitcher of that ilk is going to be 20, 22, 25 plus M's. What would we be saying right now if it was Steele, Evaldi, Imanaga?
Yeah.
What would we be saying if it was Steele, Manaya, Imanaga? That's even 2 of the names that are more, older names for sure, but had really solid 2024 seasons. I guess there's risk with all these guys. Flaherty, that Tigers deal was really, really attractive, I think. Why weren't the Cubs in on that? If they were not in on that. So yeah, and I get it. I get the risk, for maybe getting someone that has 1 year left. But as we are 4 weeks out from the season, you just would have liked to build a little bit of a buffer in that spot. And when you see that their luxury tax payroll is at 210 M's, which is 31 under the threshold, but at least 10 under where they said they might open the season on March 18th, you wonder how those dollars could have been allocated differently to get a starter. Yeah. And they did get one, by the way. They got Boyd. But even after the Boyd signing, it was clear. I remember even in the reaction episode, who's next, and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and I mean that's not to pile on, but that's not to mention that by going after Bregman, they're also telling you they don't love their offensive situation.
Yeah,
and
maybe. Yeah.
and that situation. So it's like they clearly have, like, this is not a complete team. The Cubs, look, I went over this on Friday. The Cubs missed out on Alex Bregman, Tanner Scott, and Roki Sasaki, right? And then they almost traded for Jesus Luzardo. And you can make a case that all of those guys, now, of course, adding all of them is not realistic. It would be one of them unless it was Sasaki with one. They still don't have a true bona fide closer. They tried to get one. They don't have one. Maybe it's Presley, maybe it's not. They don't have that other starter that they try to get with Luzardo. And then they don't have and Sasaki, and they don't have the bat as well, where, I believe in Matt Shaw probably more than most. I believe in PCA probably more than most. I think I believe in Michael Busch maybe a little bit less than most. And that doesn't mean I think he stinks. I just don't think he's an 850 OPS type guy. But there's holes there. So it all comes back and you go, okay, there's holes. Oh, and they're 14th in payroll. So they could fill these holes. And then the conclusion is you have Kyle Tucker. So you have to take advantage of this year to go win the division, because I would go as far as to say there's a less than 25% chance you have him beyond this year. And so if you just come up short, let's say you get to 86 and you needed to get to 87, could that extra 10 million, could that have been the difference?
Yeah, and I get it. They're going to have some room for the trade deadline. Well, that's 100 games from now.
But they're going to they don't need that much room. They need like 10 million. They don't need 25.
Right. They don't even need that much room to do it. Right. Yeah. Well, but that goes back to the theory. Maybe they want to, on October 1st, have a payroll that's like 230 or 220 something.
Yeah, but then so then Ricketts
which would be a severe reduction from last year. Severe.
Didn't Ricketts tell The Athletic like that I'm almost positive that hey, we'll probably end up right around the first tax? I mean,
that's what he said.
Yeah, so that's would be a false statement then. But anyway,
speaking of The Athletic, Patrick Mooney provided 3 names the Cubs are still talking to. Justin Turner, we knew about that. So maybe there's 7 M's right there. Jose Iglesias, who has a few offers, but not from the Mets, where he would like to go back. And then here's a name, Sam, that makes no sense to me, but it would probably be the lowest cost. JD Martinez. Where does he fit? Just an odd name drop from Mooney.
Could he play first?
I don't think he's done it for a long time, but yeah, he'd probably throw the first baseman's mitt on, sure.
Well, then
first baseman's glove, excuse me, as the commenters come after me. So, Cubs 14th in payroll. By the way, after them, there's a big drop-off from where they are at 210 to the next team, which is the Orioles at 177. Some notable teams in front of the Cubs: Giants, Angels, and Diamondbacks. Wow. All right, coming up next, a little bit of Throwback Tuesday. Stay tuned. We're back here on Locked On Cubs. Ryne Sanberg, Fergie Jenkins, and Rick Sutcliffe are all serving as guest instructors for Cubs spring training. Pretty cool. Schwan Dunston and Mark Gray surprised Sanberg on the field on Saturday at Sloan Park in Mesa, Arizona. Ian Happ had a nice quote over the weekend about all these guys. Sam, I really think Happ, especially following his convo with Sosa at the convention, he seems to really understand Cubs history, the eras.
He's kind of he's kind of turned into the de facto, like, not, you know what I mean, not face, but kind of leader / like the Cub guy. Like he's Cub for life guy. There's a better term, but sorry, go ahead.
And Dunston, Gray, Sutcliffe, and Sanberg all played together in 88, 89, 90, and 91, which was Sutcliffe's last season on the north side. That 4-year run began when Grace debuted in 88. Out of those 4 teams, the 89 team was the most successful with 93 wins and a playoff appearance.
Will Clark.
Wasn't necessarily trending towards trivia here, but I would open the floor to you if you want, because I do have the opening day lineup in 1989 in front of me.
Oh boy. Yeah. All right.
And a good squad here.
Okay. Yeah, this is a little bit not my era, but I'll go for it. I know.
So 9 names. You already know 4 of them.
Well, I know that they. I just want to give the fun fact. I think that was the Will Clark series where they got beat by the Giants.
Oh wow.
Well, Dawson, was he on there?
He is.
Okay. How about was Jerome Walton?
Let me see here. Yes, he was. He was the leadoff hitter in center. So you got Walton and Dawson, who was in right.
And then the guys that you mentioned. So Grace.
Right. Grace was at first, hitting 5th.
Dunston
was hitting 7th at short.
Sanberg
3rd at second.
Oh boy. Am I naming pitchers too, or just position players?
Well, Sutcliffe was the pitcher that day.
Oh, okay. Because Maddox had to be on that team.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. So was Mitch Williams, by the way.
So who am I? What positions am I missing?
All right, let's see here. Left field, third base, and catcher is all.
Okay.
One of the names I didn't even know.
Can you give me a third base initial? Because I actually think I know.
Is that going to be a first name initial or last?
Both. Can you give me I think it starts with a V.
Yes, it does. VL.
Vance Law.
Very good.
That's all I know.
Very good. Left field was a dude named Webster. Have you ever heard of that name, Webster?
Mitch Webster?
Yeah. Then catcher, I have a catcher clue. Manager.
I thought Lloyd McClendon was on this team.
Yeah, I think he might have been, but he didn't start that day.
Oh.
Catcher,
Joe Girardi.
That's correct. Very good.
All right.
And Matt Shaw had some cool comments about Rhino too. Whoever you can learn from.
I got a trivia question for you.
One of the best. Nice to see him out there. Yeah, go ahead.
I got a little trivia Tuesday for you.
Okay.
This is a pretty interesting question. But I think you'll do fine. It's very basic. Sure. Who's allowed the most home runs in Cubs history? Can you name the top 5? Think about length of time pitching. That's really important. It's not this isn't this guy wasn't very good stat. It's more this guy pitched a lot for the Cubs stat.
Ferguson Jenkins.
He's number 1. He allowed 271 home runs and 347 starts.
Wow. So you have a lot of good numbers here.
There's one guy on here that pitched way less than everybody else and yet still made the list. And my hint, I'll give you a hint on him, is that, I'm talking very slow.
Steve Traxel.
And folks, he didn't speak slow. He worked slow. I don't want to think I'm trying to offend anyone.
The human rain delay was his nickname.
The human rain delay.
So I have 3 more names here.
Yeah, so I just want to give this stat. He allowed
172
home runs in just 190 games started.
Yikes.
So everybody else...
That's bad.
Everybody else is pretty gettable besides one, but I'll give you an obvious hint when you get there. So
is that Rick Russell?
No, he's not on there. You have one very famous pitcher that I just mentioned, and then one guy near and dear to our hearts.
You just mentioned him?
Yeah, it just came up on this 89 team.
Rick Sutcliffe.
No, I'm surprised he's not on there.
Mitch Williams.
No, I think
Greg Maddux.
Greg Maddux is correct.
Oh, okay. So
160
Jenkins, Maddox, and who else did I get?
Traxel. So you're missing number 2 and number 3. One of them, I'll give you the obvious hint.
No, don't give me a hint yet.
Oh, well, you won't get this guy.
Carlos Zambrano.
No, but you're right there with the other guy. This guy just finished his career recently, like last year with the Cubs.
He just finished his career recently?
With the Cubs last year.
Wow, last year it was Kyle Hendricks.
Correct. He's number 2.
Okay.
And then your last guy is
what era? Do you have an era, possibly?
Yeah, like the 30s.
Oh, the 30s. Is it Mordecai Brown?
No, but it's the other guy that comes up because of a certain moment in baseball history.
Okay. He almost had a perfect game.
No, he was the guy that gave up the called shot.
Shoot.
Do you remember his name?
No, it wasn't Milt Pappas.
No, that's that. He's way later.
No, he's in the 70s. Excuse me.
Like when
Grover Cleveland.
Blank canal when you have a bad thing with your tooth. Charlie Root.
Charlie Root?
Yes, yeah. He was number 3, 183 home runs. Which really, he only gave up 183 homers in 340 games started, but that's because nobody hit homers back then besides the guy that called a shot against him. So.
Wow, what a trivia question. Nice job.
Yeah, I looked at that and my first instinct was I wish you would have asked me that because I would have had a really fun time just navigating my way. Zambrano would have come to mind for sure. Sutcliffe would have come to mind for sure. I would have definitely gotten Hendricks. I would have definitely gotten Fergie. I would have gotten Maddox. I would not have gotten Steve Traxel because I just didn't think he pitched. I probably would have gone maybe like a Kevin Tapani route or,
even like a Ryan Dempster or something.
Yeah, something like that. So, okay. But hey, listen, give up homers.
Spring training games do start on Thursday, 2:05 Central Standard start. You can find that game on Sportsnet LA and MLB Network. That ball game will not be on Marquee. Fridays will, though.
I'm going to watch that. Vegas.
What are some things that we're looking for out of spring training? What are some of the players' goals, council's goals? That's the question, of course, pending breaking news that we're going to explore for Wednesday. Sam, anything else?
No, I just love trivia.
Very good. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. We are here 5 days a week talking about all things Cubs. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube as we make the push to 13,000 subscribers. And we're streaming worldwide on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Sirius XM, and more. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. And you are now Locked On Cubs.
Go Cubs.